I believe it's also on slideshow.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Um, okay, I think I'm fine now. Okay, so we can start. You know, good morning, everyone. Sorry, sorry. Good evening. Like Nofisat said, can you hear me? Please confirm you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, Nofisat, are you also there?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay, so good evening, everyone, once again. And so, basically, the topic of this, or the conversation we are having here tonight is basically about building a career in risk management and internal control. And so, my slide basically speaks to your roadmap to a high impact profession. And so, it's just going to take us a few minutes. I think maximum we should end this within 15 to 20 minutes, 30 minutes max. So I'm going to be taking you through what risk management and internal control is, what risk management and internal control is, why you should actually be looking forward to building a career in risk management and internal control, a different function or your career path as an internal control and risk manager. The career path, of course, the different functions within risk management and internal control, and the certifications that you will need also to build a career in risk management and internal control. So it's just a guide into your it's like a roadmap into the risk management and internal control profession. So thank you. So let's go. So firstly, my first slide here basically speaks to what risk management and internal control is, and what is the expectation of what do they expect from you as a risk management and internal control profession, chief risk officer or head of internal control. Basically, so let's start with risk management. Basically, so what is risk management and what is expected of you as a risk manager? Basically, the first thing is identifying potential threats to an organization. So we live in a very fast-paced environment. There's risks everywhere, left, right, and center. Even in school, there's risks in your activities, going to class, coming back. There's car moving around. There's a lot of risks around. You get. So when you in every situation you find yourself, or in any organization you find yourself, there will always be risks associated to the business that you do. So your responsibility as a risk manager is basically to identify potential risks to the organization before they start occurring, before they occur. And so most times we do not want a situation whereby risks event happen, and it's never under your radar. You don't even notice it that that's happening before you raise alarm. So basically, your responsibility is to identify potential risks to an organization as a risk manager. Once you identify those risks, the next thing you are supposed to do is also to assess the probability of that risk happening and the impact of the risk. So you identify a risk. You also have to look at what is the probability of that risk event happening. What is the impact of the risk happening. Let me cite an example here. Of course, if in the banking sector, let's say even commercial banks, we have regulators, we have CBN who regulates the activity of commercial banks or banks, or even microfinance banks generally, right? And no, most times the MPC meets, MPC Monetary Policy Committee meets, and they decide whether to retain rates, to increase rates, and do some they take decisions on some other things, right? And so, for example, now as a risk manager, you're able to predict, or you should have an idea of what the environment of the economic environment, right? And you also be able to think about in the next MPC meeting, what would the monetary policy committee do? Are they likely to increase rates? Are they likely to reduce rates? Are they likely to to hold rate constant? And so once you have to understand the probability of doing those decisions, and also analyze the impact of those decisions. So if they hold rate, what will be the impact on on our own position as a company, or our own position as an institution? You have to understand the probability of their decision, and understand the impact of those risks. You also have to design strategies to mitigate those risks or avoid those risks. Next is also to monitor risk exposure and continuously. You have to continuously monitor those risk exposure and ensure business objectives are being protected. So that's basically what basically about identify potential to the organization, assessing the probability and the impact of that risk, designing strategies to mitigate or avoid those risks, and monitoring exposure. Continuous monitoring, exposure monitoring, and ensuring business objectives are all protected. That's basically what risk management is all about, and also the expectation of the institution of you as a risk manager, as a risk officer, or as a chief risk officer. And so that's just one part of what we are looking at tonight. Risk management, and we know it's basically two sessions, two sides. So risk management and internal control. So the second part is the internal control. So as an internal control officer or as a head of internal control, what's your responsibility? It basically has to do with system and process ensuring organization integrity. You are basically to ensure the integrity of the system, and the processes within the organization. So, as an internal control officer, it's your responsibility to prevent and detect fraud or errors. In financial sector, for example, a lot of things happen. People move money from one place to another. Your company too, for example, moves money. They hold clients fund. They return clients fund at point of liquidation. They move investments. So of errors occur, you are supposed to help identify the errors and help resolve the error. So your responsibility is basically has to do with preventing and detecting errors and fraud in every institution we have, being we are in investment banking or even you are in manufacturing. You always see people who want to take advantage of the system, and it's your responsibility to monitor the transaction, monitor everything to ensure that the system is free of fraud and error. So it's also your responsibility to ensure that to ensure compliance with law and regulation. When I mean law, I would like to I'm using banking as my reference, because of course that's my constituency. So for ensuring compliance with law and regulation, so that CBN is the one governing banks in Nigeria, and so they have policies, they have rules and regulations, laws and regulations that's guiding the operations of banking in Nigeria, for example. And so it's your responsibility to ensure that your organization is not playing foul of those laws and regulations. That means you have to ensure that we comply with the laws and regulation of the of the land. Aside from the fact that ensuring you compliance with the regulation of like the CBN and the other regulatory bodies, the organization itself also has its own policy, its policies, what guides the operation of the bank, internal policies. And so it's also your responsibility to ensure compliance with those internal policies of the institution. Your responsibility is about safeguarding the asset and financial reporting, and also improving operational efficiency. So basically, that's what risk management and internal control is, and what the expectation of the institution of that's what the expectation of the institution of you, what are we expecting of you, sorry, as a risk management and internal control. Basically, this is just a high level summary of what the expectation, what risk management and internal control is, and also the expectation of the institution. So let me move to the next slide. And so, why choose a career in risk management and internal control? Why should you choose a career in risk management and internal control? The first thing is very high demand. Risk management is and internal control is something, if you want to build a career in that particular field, it's very, very high demand. You see, every almost every sector of the institution requires people in risk management, in internal control. They want people to come and work for them as risk managers and internal control officers. So the first reason why you should, why you should choose a career in risk management is because it's high demand. If you understand the sector you want to go to, you just do your research for the institutions within the sectors, you find out that they are always in need of risk management and internal control officers. The second thing is, attractive pay. Competitive salary with rapid growth, senior roles and top tier compensation. If you get a career in risk management, for example, in top tier banks or even top tier investment banks or even the manufacturing, you should also choose a career in risk management and internal control. Regulatory growth. By regulation now, most institutions by regulation, it's compulsory for them to have internal control department and also risk management unit. So it's not just about whether the banks want mention, they should have it. And so, demand for, because they have to have it they should have a department or a unit. They have a department, risk management department, also the internal control department by regulation. So it makes the search for risk managers and internal control managers. So diversify sector. So another reason why you should also choose this career path is also because of the sector diversity. You don't have to stay in financial sector. If you don't like financial sector, you could decide, okay, I want to go into manufacturing sector, I want to go into telecommunication sector. Almost all the sectors, there's always a department for risk management and internal control. For example, even if there are Muslims among us, and they do not want to work in conventional banks, and they feel like, I want to work in an ethical institution, maybe maybe companies like that, like Jaiz, like Taj, like Lotus Capital, Lotus Bank. You can also, because of sector diversification, you can also choose to move into sectors that are ethical, that you feel they are in line with your faith principles. And so if you don't want to do core finance, you can do ethical finance, you can do manufacturing, you can do healthcare, you can do non-profit organization. So it's risk management it's a profession that is required across different sectors. So it's not something that you must say, okay, I want to work as a risk manager in financial sector. You can do a risk manager or internal control person and in health sector, in manufacturing sector, in tech, in telecommunication, and so on and so forth. So the next, another reason why you should choose a career in risk management is strategic impact. There's always a seat for risk manager at management level. At management level, as an internal control manager, when your organization wants to take decision, high impact decision, of course, you have to be on the table. The risk management has to be at the table. Internal control manager has to be at the table, because they can't take decision in isolation of risk. They can't take decision in isolation of risk. They will have to look at, okay, what decision we are about to take. What are the risks associated with this decision? What would they will bring you to the table and also have a say, in those decisions. So yes, there's strategic part for risk managers and internal control. Global mobility. Another reason why you should choose a career path in risk management and internal control is global mobility. So if you are working as a risk management in Nigeria or internal control manager in Nigeria, and you feel like you want to relocate to, UK, US, Canada, Australia, all those, foreign, international, to other countries, right? Once you have the certification, right, you have the experience. You're already building a career in risk management or internal control. You have the experience and you have the certification. I'm telling you, it's always very, very easy for you to move. It's always very, very, very to move. So you will not be going there to go and start at ground zero. You might get there and probably just get one job just in the meantime. But in the long run, you will get a job that really, really suits the career path you've been building in Nigeria. I have a lot of colleagues that have relocated from Nigeria to Canada, to US, and they're able to, in the long run, they're able to get job that relates to their career path, what they've been doing in Nigeria. And that's what advantage you get when you're building a career in risk management and internal control. It gives you global mobility. When you relocate abroad, you see a lot of people who have experience in internal control and risk management in Nigeria. When they get abroad, they get jobs in banking, in other sectors that has, in other sectors in sectors that require experienced managers in risk and internal control. Hold on, please. Miriam, please come and carry the baby, please. Miriam. That's the reasons. These are the reasons why you should choose a career in risk management, right? Let me move to the next slide. Career pathway. So this slide is basically, can you see my screen? Hello?
Yes, we Can sir, yes,
Okay,
can.
career pathway and progression. So
Yes,
this
sir. Sorry, we can see your screen, but you are a little bit faster. Sorry, sir. In your
oh
attempt of explanation, so we need you to at least help us break down a little bit so that we can grab it. Thank you.
okay, sincere apologies. So you should just once my I naturally speak fast though. So once I'm going a bit fast, just call my attention to it so I can and come down a little bit. And of course, there will also be the question and answer part, so you can ask questions and get clarity around areas where you think you did not get my explanation, or areas that I'm a little bit too fast for you. So career path and progression for risk management and internal control. So if you get a job, if after school you are looking for to build a career in risk management and internal control, basically it's just like a screenshot of of your career of the career path in risk management and internal control. And mind you, so for example, if you get a job in your commercial bank as a risk person, you probably going to enter. If you get a job in risk management in commercial bank or an investment bank, you're basically going to start as a risk analyst, and so you move from senior risk analyst, you become a risk manager or a risk associate. Uh, from a risk associate, you move there to become senior risk manager. From risk manager, and then you can proceed to become the head of risk or chief risk officer. Um, for the internal control part, you could move from being an internal control officer or an internal control analyst. From there you become internal control supervisor. From there you grow to become internal control manager, and then head of internal control. This slide basically is just to show you the career progression. But then if I'm to break this slide even down further, right, as a risk manager, as a as a risk manager, if you enter as a risk manager um in commercial banks, sorry, I'm using commercial banks and banking generally, investment banks and banking generally as my example, because that's my own space, right? If risk management, for example, you can break down risk management into core risk management. You can break it into financial risk, market risk, and liquidity risk. So if you're entering the space or the financial sector, if you're entering the financial sector as a risk manager, you can either enter as a financial risk analyst, or market risk analyst, or operational liquidity risk analyst, or even an operational risk analyst. So those are the different division under risk management. So you can enter as a market risk analyst, liquidity risk analyst, or financial risk analyst, even or operational risk analyst. Those are ways you can. Those are the pathway to enter as a risk officer. So then from there you can now take it to becoming maybe a senior liquidity risk officer, or senior market risk officer, or senior operational risk officer. Then you become operational risk manager, financial risk manager, liquidity risk manager. Then at the extreme end, upper level of it, you now become somebody at that level, maybe a senior risk manager or senior liquidity risk manager, now becomes the head of risk manager. So the head of risk manager now oversees head of risk, or chief risk officer now oversees the different units within risk management. Liquidity risk. Sorry, my baby is distracting me a bit, so apologies. So risk management has liquidity risk, market risk, financial risk, operational risk. So you can either enter as a liquidity risk officer, market risk officer, financial risk officer, or operational risk, and then you start growing. But at the head, at the top, it becomes somebody between along the as a senior risk or liquidity risk or financial risk, now becomes the head of, where all these managers of the different units now reports to as a chief risk officer, reports to you as a chief risk officer. So for internal control, or the other part of it is the internal control part. You can enter if you're in commercial banking, or you're in investment banking, or asset management, or banking generally. You can enter as a internal control analyst, For most commercial banks, for example, internal control officers, right? You could enter as a branch control officers where you what you basically do, you are just reviewing branch operations activities as an internal control person. As an internal control person, you are basically reviewing branch control activities. Or you could enter as an head office control person. Maybe you're working with you're covering HR control, which has to do with, or you enter as operation international operations control person. Basically, they are under both risk and internal control. You can enter from different angles. You can enter from different angles, but then the major thing is you are entering as an internal control officer. Then you can now start growing as maybe to the level of supervisor, then level of the manager, and then the head of internal control. I think I have been able to make justice, do justice to this slide, even though some of the other part I spoke. That's why I said I will be speaking outside the slide once in a while. The next slide basically speaks to what I was in the other slide. I spoke about financial risk, market risk, liquidity risk. So basically, these are the different type of risks under risk management. You could enter. I said you could enter as a financial risk manager. You could enter as a liquidity risk manager. You could enter as a market risk manager, and then you can now start growing from there. These are different units under risk management. These are different units. Financial risk is a unit under risk management. Market risk is a unit under risk management. Liquidity risk is a unit under risk management. So these are basically the definition. What causes the different? This is just to give you an example of what it's all about. Okay, so the next slide basically speaks to the skills, the basic skills and professional certification you will need as a risk manager and or internal control manager. So as the basic skills you will need basically are basic analytical skills and data skills. So if you're an economics student, you are a finance student, or you are also maybe an accounting student, you should be able to analyze data. You should also be you should be analytical in your thinking. You should also have regulatory knowledge. Of course, this regulatory knowledge basically is something that comes with experience. So they might not, if you are trying to get in as an entry level person, they might not really drill you at interview level. They won't really drill you on regulatory on compliance knowledge, right? Because this particular skills comes with experience. So, but your analytical thinking and data analysis skills, they will basically drill you on it. They want to know if you're analytical in your thinking or you have data analysis skills. This process, the third skills needed is process and control skills. Of course, this also comes with experience also, but then you should be able to speak to all these skills. You should understand what the skills is all about, and also be able to speak to them. You should understand what they are all about, and you should be able to speak to them. Another skills that you also be needing in this line of profession is also audit and investigation techniques. You should also be able to investigate issues. As a risk manager, when there's a risk event, you should be able to investigate what is this risk event, why did this event actually you should be able to analyze have communication skills and you should be able to manage stakeholders. The last skills you'll be needing, essential skills, is critical thinking and problem solving. So if you are coming in as an entry level person, right? So the basic skills they will be testing basically is, firstly, you'll be testing your analytical thinking and data analysis skills. They will be testing your communication skills and stakeholder management skills. They'll also be testing your critical thinking and problem solving skills. The other skills like regulatory and compliance knowledge, process and control design, audit and investigation skills, basically those ones comes with experience, so they may not really drill you when you're going for your interview. But your analytical skills and data analysis skills, your communication skills, your critical thinking and problem solving skills, they are basically going to drill you on it if you're going for an interview for key risks and for risk management and internal control personnel. So top certification you need to have, as students in school, the certification you need to have to get into risk management and internal control profession. So I would advise you, the first tool I would think I would advise you, basically, you start your ICANN if you're in school right now, or you start your ACCA. ACCA is more expensive, right? Because of course you are going to be paying in pounds, but ICANN is still in Nigeria related, so you can start with ICANN because you're paying in naira and it's not really as expensive as going for the foreign qualification like ACCA or CFA or FRM, but you can start with ICANN, so because it's your parents could afford it, you could pay, you could, pay for it, and then when you start working, you can now start, you have the funding yourself. You can now start going for the uh foreign certifications like ACCA, like FRM, financial risk manager, like CFA, so those are the certifications. Major ones are ICANN, ACCA, financial risk manager, CFA profession, so certified financial analyst. So I would recommend those risk and internal control profession. So you can start at school right now. You don't graduate. Some of the mistakes people like us actually made was when we were in school. We were just focusing on our degrees. We didn't really look at right to professional qualification, and even our service here. And I also recommend if you feel you can combine your professional certification with your normal school study degree program. I think immediately after school, after your final exam, you can start putting in for this program. Or so that during before your call up for service, or probably even before your proper service year, you can start writing those exams. You don't have to wait till when you now start looking for job. You already know you want to build a career in finance, or in risk management or internal control. So having certification is very, very important. In fact, it's going to give you an edge. So immediately after your final paper in school, if you cannot start now, please immediately after your final paper, start putting in for those exams. If you can afford professional certification like ACCA, like CFA, you can put in for them. But if you cannot afford it, I will advise you your ICANN. In fact, if you have your ICANN, for example, just put in with your ICANN, you'll have exemption for a lot of papers for ACCA. You might just write a few papers, just like 2 or 3 papers for ACCA, and you become certified in just one sitting. You become certified for ACCA. So ICANN gives you the background, the background to move into other professional certification. So I would highly recommend that you start with ICANN if you are in school, because of funding. And so when you're done with school and you have funding yourself, you can fund it yourself. You can now start putting it for ACCA. You can put it for CFA or financial risk management. So I would advise you in your career, you should have at least 2 of these professional certification. So I think this is also clear.
So sorry, sir. Before you continue, I think we skipped a slide, the 5th slide.
Is it this slide?
Yes.
I spoke to it now. I said something about it. It was just a bit brief.
All right.
Okay. So, but just to explain again, right? So I said, under risk management, right? We have. You could come if you want to build a career in core risk management. You could start with financial risks. You could start with market risks. You could start with, because these are basically units. They are units under risk management. So you could start with financial risks. You could start with market risks. You could come into the bank or even investment banking, or basically let's say commercial bank. You could come into a commercial bank as a financial risk analyst. You could come in as a market risk analyst. You could come in as a liquidity risk analyst, basically. And so this basically speaks, the other column beside it speaks to the definition of each of those risks. So what causes those risks and the example. It's just to expatiate, basically. I'm just trying to explain to you that even as a risk manager, please can you mute yourself? Please mute, please. So basically, this slide is basically speaking to the different units you can come in under risk management. So I'm telling you that under risk management is just like a department. Under that department, we have different units. You get, it's just like, let me just set an example of faculty society. Under a society, let's say faculty of social science, you have the financial secretary, you have the sports secretary, you have there are different units under the society, right? So just like that, we have different units under risk management. I'm just trying to cite an example that I feel you can relate with. So that's basically what this slide is all about. I also spoke to the following slide, the next slide, which is the skills and professional certification. Um, so the next slide basically speaks to how to get started. How to get started. So get the education. Pursue your education in finance, in accounting, in economics, or business administration. So if you have a degree in finance, accounting, risk management, economics, and business administration, it's always very easy. And so if you, in fact, most adverts for employment for roles in internal control and risk management, they will always require people that studied finance. That's basically what you need, the degree. Get experience. So once you have your degree, you are good to go as an entry level personnel. So you gain the entry level experience. How do you even get the entry level experience? Basically by applying for internship. So during holidays, when school is on strike, holiday, you should not wait for when you are done with school before you seek opportunity for internship. That's how to get experience. That's how to gain experience. You look for institutions. Most of you are on LinkedIn already. Connect with risk and internal control managers, chief risk officer, chief financial officers on LinkedIn. Ask them for sorry, please. Ask them for an opportunity to intern in their institution. Ask for the opportunity to intern in their institution so you can intern, so you can gain experience with those institutions as an intern. And so once you have an experience as an intern, it becomes easy for you to even to defend yourself when you're applying for the core role. And most times when you intern with institutions, right, they would tend to consider you more when it's time for probably you are looking for your PPA where to serve during your service year. They will tell people that probably did their intern with them. They give you that opportunity to come and serve here, because of course we know you, we know what you are capable of. So please come and serve with us. They give you the opportunity, and after service they may give you the contract job. So for the first year after your service year, or even do your outright confirmation for you as a core staff. So that's how to gain entry level experience. Look for internship opportunities in finance institutions, in manufacturing, depending on the sector where you want to go to. So once you gain entry level experience, the next thing is to start seeking certification. Like I told you earlier in the first slide, in the previous slide, get your certificate. I can, just to get relevant certification. Join the network, of once you are on your way to get your certifications of ICANN. You are on your way to get certification as an associate under ICANN, or as a member of ACCA, right? You you start building the network. From there, you can start getting contacts. In fact, once you start writing your professional certification, when you're going for your tutorials, you meet people who are already as members of different institutions, different companies. You engage, you build network, you exchange numbers, connect with them on LinkedIn, and you start building rapport with them. And before you know it, you tell them of your intent of working in institutions like theirs, and then you get opportunity. And stay current. Always look for information about the sector where you want to work with. Most of these particular slides, you can see I'm writing ISACA, right? Basically they do more with internal control, right? This building your network. I wrote ISACA, IIA, they're basically related to internal control, not core risk management. So let me move to the next slide. Your future is in risk starts today. So your future in risk starts today, right? It start with your education, or which you are already on in economic business administration. You're already on that path, right? And so what you just need to do is look for intern opportunity with corporate institutions where the kind of institution you want to work with. Look for intern opportunity. Once you get those intern opportunities, start your professional qualification journey. Once you start your professional qualification journey, the next thing is also to start building your network. Stay connected with individuals working in that sector, because once the opportunity comes, there will be people to help you. They will be the ones to put in words for you with the institution. This person is a very, very good person. I have relationship with him. I think should be able to, he or she will be able to deliver when we give he or she the opportunity to work with us. Once you build your network, your entry into the risk management and internal control profession is just settled. You know, so basically, the last word on this slide saying risk management and internal control is not just a job; it is a calling to protect, improve, and strengthen the organization that drives our economy. So risk management and internal control basically it's all about protecting the institutions so that we do not run uh, drown the institution because of our risks, because of our decisions, because of decisions that we take, which we do not take into cognizance the risk implication of those institutions of those decisions. Sorry. So I think that will just be all from my slide. That will be all. Thank you. I would hang in for question. I don't know if I've been able to do justice to this presentation. And so I think that's just all I have for you. So I'll hang in for question. We've done even more than that. My intention was just to do 30 minutes with this presentation, but I've done even 45 minutes already. So I will hang in for questions. If you have questions for me.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Please, can you all confirm if you can hear me? All right. Thank you so much, sir. This was a very productive session. I think the one thing that stuck with me was when you said that the risk management and internal control profession is a very niche one, and there's very high demand for people that get into that. So, for people that are looking to get into things that are not so mainstream but also have huge opportunities, this is for you. Thank you so much, sir. We really enjoyed the presentation. So now I'll be leaving the floor open for questions. So if you have a question, kindly just raise your electronic hand and then we'll get to you. Questions. I have a couple of questions, so I'm wondering why you guys are not raising your hands. All right, Mr. Confidence, God's will. Please, the floor is yours.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Mr. Ibrahim, thank you so much. It's really been a privilege and honor to have you here. I just have like a few questions. I think one or two. I'm sorry, like as a finance student, so I wanted to know some basic like what happens when management like override establishing internal controls in the financial sector.
I
I don't know
I
if you get
com-
my question.
I got your question. I got your question. Confidence. I really, really love this question. I really, really love it because it's something we experience a lot as risk management and internal control professionals. When as a risk manager, there's a situation and you are seeing risks in that particular situation, and you are trying to explain to management that look, this decision we are about to take or this thing we are about to do, there's a particular risk associated with this decision, and so we should not go in that direction. And sometimes management will override that decision, because probably they saw an opportunity and they feel the opportunity is going to be very, very rewarding for the institution. But as a risk manager, you also saw a very, very risk. For example, let's say we want to take an investment decision, right? And we feel this decision, if you look at this decision, right, we are going to make a let's say we are trying to take investment decision, right, and the decision, if we go into that investment, we are likely going to make a 40% return on investment. And but then as a risk management, we feel as a risk manager, look at that decision that if we should go into this business and we are take this, it is likely we also lose a part of our capital, as fun, because we are taking a decision that of it, but also there's a risk part of it. decision. You as a risk manager, your role is basically to highlight the risks and explain to management, this is the risk, this is the risk, this is the risk that we are going to, associated to this particular decision, investment decision we are about to take. And once you highlight them, you also come up with mitigation strategies you feel we can implement that we are most likely to encounter because of this decision we're about to take. So once you, as a risk manager, you tell them, okay, this is the decision we're about to, this is the, you provide mitigant, what you think we should do. You as a risk, you feel is going to come, there are risks associated with it. Once you come up with mitigants, right, you can also tell them like, okay, this is the decision we're about to take. Instead of us going with 30% of our fund, why can't we just go in with 10%, and going with 30%, taking our 30% of our portfolio, invest 30% say, oh, we can't go in with 30%. 30% is so much for this type of business we are about to do. Let's just do 10%, 5% of our portfolio. And then you're not telling them not to do business, because most times management want to do business. They want to bring in more money, they want to make more money for, of course, the share that will say, oh, they are performing. But in doing that also, you also have to consider risk. And your role as role manager is to tell them, no, don't let do this. But most times, the management will now tell you, no, we don't want to do that. But you have, as a risk manager, you have to also tell them the risk, even if they override it. It should be documented as a risk manager. Yeah, you told them this is the risk associated with this particular program, so that even when it backfires, right, if the investment should go wrong, they of course, nobody will hold you accountable. Even the board, the management will they will not be able to hold you responsible for it as a risk manager. That you saw them that the management wants to take this particular decision and you said nothing about it. You should document it, draft your mail, analyze what the risk associated with that decision, investment decision is, and send it to management. Let it be documented. Even when they override it, it's not just your own risks alone. It becomes the management's risks. I know they will now have to go and defend it at the board. Hope my answers my answer I'm able to answer your question with confidence. It's something we
Very
experience a lot.
correct.
Yeah, it's something we experience a lot in financial sector. Sometimes you see risk, you tell management this is the risk, but sometimes they override it. Most time, and that override is not something that happens all the time. It's just once in a while, because there's so many reasons why management override decisions, right? Risk management decisions, but there's always something that happens once in a while. But it's always very good as a risk manager, document whatever it is you see in those things and forward it to management. So you will not just be a passive control or risk manager. You should be an active risk manager, somebody who speaks to risk issues and helps you look for mitigants to those risks. How to look for ways to mitigate those risks for management. Thank you, Confidence. I really love this question. Thank you, Confidence.
All right, thank you so much for that question. So we have a question in the chat box from Tengu Emmanuel. He says, thank you very much for the wonderful session. He can't speak right now, but his question is, seeing that AI is taking over in transactional routines, where do we see the human element of risk management in the nearest future? So did you get that?
Yeah, I got your question. I'm so happy that you are asking. You guys are asking so relevant questions, very relevant, and I'm so happy. I'm so happy. You're not asking me textbook questions. Questions are not relevant. So AI is changing the way women even work. Basically, and I also want to tell you, what AI does is AI cannot totally replace human thinking and human judgment. Sometimes as risk managers and as internal control managers, when we even when we almost every unit, every department, every function, every role, now you have to use AI to enhance your performance. It's very, very, it's something. So even as students now, I will encourage you should start learning how to use AI, not just ChatGPT. Start using the different type of AIs, and so you understand how you can also use it and how you can apply it to help you enhance your role and performance job. So AI cannot totally replace human So sometimes, let's say you use AI to analyze a particular data, and then AI is giving you AI gives you the report of that analysis. It's also your responsibility to look at that report, the generated AI, the report that an analysis that AI generated for you, and by looking at it, you have to you have to be very, very sure that the analysis of AI also resonates with the current realities of what you are doing. Most times when you use AI will just give you generic, reasoning based on what it has in his memory, or what where the human interaction has with previous people, or different people, or different situation, and it might not completely resonate with what you're actually dealing with, the current situation in your own institution. So human judgment is very, very important. So when you use AI to generate a report, to the AI to do one thing or the other, you still have to review that to be very, very sure. I'm telling you, a lot of times, you see AI use, and you know that this does not using AI for your, even for your research, for anything, is very, very important. And so you have to understand the limitations of AI. AI cannot completely eliminate human reasoning, cannot human judgment. In fact, because different situation, the judgment for the particular situation you find yourself might not completely align with what AI is generating for you. So you have to also look at what AI, the result you got from the AI, and also be to your and to also sorry to also apply your own judgment. So AI cannot completely eliminate human judgment. Even AI will help us, will enhance our performance on the job, what we do, but it cannot eliminate human judgment. So we still need human people to actually review those jobs. So AI cannot take our job. That's just the honest truth. I hope that answers your question. I'm sorry. Nafisat, who asked that question? I don't know.
He,
And
Tango Emmanuel, he said he can't talk right now, so I'm sure you answered the question well. But you can talk in the group, Mr. Tango. Okay, he just reacted. All right. So does anybody else have any questions? No question is too simple, so please ask away while we still have him here. Okay. I am not seeing any hands up. So okay, no, that's my question. All right, I think my own question is, you mentioned that the sector is quite lucrative, so I would really like to know what's the salary range that we're looking at for entry level roles and as you go up the ladder.
uh, um, um, is that from you, Nafisat? And
Yes, it is from me.
you're already thinking about the money. Okay.
Definitely.
Okay. It's very, very important, actually. So I so for commercial, but it depends on the institution, right? Even within the same sector, we have different sectors. We have oil and gas. We have banking. Even in bank, we have the commercial banking. We have microfinance banking, and we have investment and asset management companies. So across these different sectors, for example, the salary rate differs, and I can tell you that the salary range that even in commercial banking, for example, different banks, the UBA, Stanbic, Wema Bank, FCMB, they pay different salaries to different clients. It's not as if the salary is always the same for these different people, but the difference might not be really that much. But although some pays better, I can tell you for free. For example, United Capital, where I work, salary range is very, very competitive. I can tell you for a fact that, of course, in investment banking, we pay one of the big competitive salary for our own sector. It's very, very competitive, and also most institutions also review salary based on current trend and realities. Once there's inflation, once there's any major effect, any major event in the economy that affects the bottom line, the prices of commodity. Most times companies will always do they always do review, salary review, and just to bring that, to make sure that their salary, their staffs are not underpaid and also are paid well remunerated. In terms of pay, right? Sorry, please. In terms of pay, I would not love to start sharing figures, for some of these banks. I don't know. I worked with Fidelity at some point. I worked with UBA at some point, and at that point when I was working with those banks, I can really remember what my salary was with them as at that time. But the current pay for now, I don't know. I don't know. But for investment banking, right? For investment banking, the current sector where I am, if you are working with tier one, the tier one investment banks like United Capital, Stanbic, FDN Quest, those are the top tier, or Cardinal Stone, those are the top tier investment banks we have in Nigeria. I just to review a rough sketch. I think as an entry level, you should earn. It might not be perfectly accurate. You should earn like, let's say 700 as an entry level, 600-700. It could be more. It could be depending on the institution you get. So as an entry level, it might not be perfectly accurate, right? Because I'm not an entry level person, right? So I might not be able to speak to you. But from my evaluation, I think you should be able to end around that level, 700. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much for that response, sir. I think it's important we know these things so that the end we
No,
all
somebody is speaking. Hold
really
on.
get.
Somebody is speaking and is please mute yourself if
Oh,
you're
all
not.
right. I think it's.
Hello?
I can't see anybody. I'm the one speaking.
No, I can. Okay, is it from your back? Maybe it's from your background. Okay, so speak.
Okay. All right. So I was just saying thank you for answering that question. So for the house, does anybody else have any other question? All right. I will take that as a no. If you don't have any questions for now and you have other questions, you can always reach out to Mr. Ibrahim on LinkedIn. He's very willing to answer your questions. So once again, thank you so much, sir, for your time and your efforts. We really, really had a lot of exposure from this session because I think a lot of us don't have knowledge about these niche sectors. So getting to have this exposure was really, really a plus for us. Thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to having similar sessions with you in the future. So I think we
Thank,
can call it a night.
thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Yasir, Umar, Confidence, Abdul Malik, Shuaib, all of you. Thank you for having me. I really, really appreciate. Thanks, and I hope you understood everything we said about. You can also reach out to me if you really want to get clarity around something, some other things, right? So as a student, also start looking for internship opportunities. Please start looking for internship. Don't wait until when you are done from school before you start looking for opportunities. It's only sometimes if you start with internship, it gives you an edge, right? Gives you an edge. So just look for those opportunity. Once you get one, you're already on your way. Thank you, or thank you for having me. God bless you. All right, bye.
All right. Bye bye, sir.